Good morning, everyone. I hope you are all doing well today. As we start this day, I'm sure many of you have already begun managing your finances, checking your account balance, or perhaps even making a few transactions. This got me thinking, have you ever stopped by think about the institutions that facilitates all these financial activities? That's right. I'm talking about banks. Today, let's learn about banks. So, what do you mean by banking? A bank is a financial institution that accepts deposits from the public and creates demand deposit while simultaneously making loans. Here are some familiar logos of banks from around the world. Can you recognize any of them? These banks are among the largest and most well established financial institutions in the world. Now, let's define banking. Banking is the business of protecting money for others. Bank leaves this money generating interest that creates profit for the bank and its customers. So let's learn about the shift in bank policy. There are four shifts that happened in the banking policy. The first one is urban orientation to rural orientation. From focusing on the urban area to rural area, class banking to mass banking. At first time, the banks were only available to high class level people, but later it leads to the mass banking, and the third shift is traditional to innovative practices. First, we only used the traditional practices, but now we are using different variety of innovative practices. Short-term objectives to development objectives. Now let's move to the next slide. Types of banking. Types of banking. The major types of banks include commercial bank, cooperative bank, specialized bank, and central banks. Commercial bank. As per the commercial bank definition, it's a financial institution whose purpose is to accept deposits from people and provide loans and other facilities. Two types of commercial banks are there: public sector bank and private sector bank. Cooperative banks. Okay, cooperative banking refers to a small financial institutions started by a group of individuals to address the capital needs of their specific community. So that's what a cooperative bank. Now let's move on to the specialized banks. Specialized banks are banks that focus on a particular area or activity such as agricultural, real estate, or industrial activity. And for the central bank, a central bank is a public institution that is responsible for implementing monetary policy, managing the currency of the country or group of countries, and controlling money supply. An example for this will be RBI, Reserve Bank of India, is a central bank. Now let's move on to the functions of commercial bank. Functions of commercial bank can be classified into primary functions as well as secondary functions. Primary functions is advancing loans and accepting deposit, as well as secondary functions include overdraft facilities, discounting bills of exchange, general utility functions, and agency functions. Now let's learn about each type of functions, shall we? So primary functions include advancing loan and accepting deposit. Accepting deposit, I mean, one of the most essential functions of commercial bank is accepting deposit. Commercial banks accept deposit from their customers in different forms based on the requirements of different sections of society. Types of deposits include saving deposit, current deposit, fixed deposit. And advancing of loans means one of the main functions of commercial bank is providing credit to organizations and individuals and profit from the interest. Usually banks retain a small reserve for their expenses while offering the remaining amount to the customers as various type of short and long funds. So now let's move on to the next function, which is secondary functions. Secondary functions include overdraft facilities, discounting bills of exchange, general utility functions, and agency functions. What do you mean by an overdraft facility? An overdraft occurs where there isn't enough money in an account to cover the transactions or withdrawal, but the bank allows the transactions in any way. Essentially, it's an extension of credit from the financial institution that is granted when an account reaches zero. So let's move on to the next facility, which is discounting bills of facility. It's a written agreement acknowledging the amount of money to paid against the goods purchased at a given point of right of time. The amount can also be cleared before the quoted time through a discounting method of a commercial bank. Oh, let's move on to the general utility functions, which are safe deposit vaults. Now, you know about the safe deposit vaults about the bank note. Foreign exchange. It's also the function of banking in maintaining foreign exchange. Letters of credits and travelers check. In the international trade and external trade, we have learned about letters of credit, an important document. So that letters of credit and travelers checks are issued by a commercial bank. Underwriting. Shares of the major companies are some is banks include underwriting of shares of the major companies, a project report, guarantees, checks and drafts. And let's move on to the last function, which is agency functions. Collecting payment, buying, selling and securities, transferring funds, making payments, acting as trustees, advising customers, providing safety vaults, issuing letter of credit, providing credit information, providing financial references and providing trade information are the functions. So that's all about the banking. Thank you.